You know that feeling, right? When you're online, trying to do something simple, maybe buy groceries, click a button, and it just doesn't work.
Oh, yeah. Infuriating. Or maybe worse, something just completely breaks down midway.
Exactly. We've all hit those digital walls.
Hmm.
Well, today we're diving into a really interesting story about how one of those seemingly small online glitches can cause some pretty big real-world problems.
We are. We're looking at a specific business challenge. Imagine running a big grocery delivery app in India. Things are going well, and then bam! Suddenly, sales drop 25% in 1 week.
Wow, 25%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Not just a blip.
Not at all. It's a code red situation. And what's really fascinating isn't just the problem, but like, how do you even start to figure out why that happened?
And that's our focus today. We're using an analysis of this kind of hypothetical scenario, not to point fingers, but to really follow the methodical steps someone would take to find the root cause.
Think of it like a detective story, but for business and tech.
A digital detective story. I like that.
Yeah, we'll walk through the logical questions, the process of elimination. It's actually a great way to see structured thinking in action.
So whether you deal with tech issues yourself or you're just curious about how businesses solve these big, messy problems, this deep dive should be really insightful. We're hunting for those aha moments.
Exactly, those moments where it clicks. And it really shows how, sometimes tiny tech details can massively impact the bottom line. Makes you appreciate robust testing, especially for things like payment systems.
Okay, let's dive in then. The starting point. This grocery app in India, established, doing well, and then sales tanked by 25% starting last week. That suddenness is key, isn't it?
Absolutely. The speed, the size of the drop, it screams that something changed, and changed fast. The first instinct might be to panic or guess, but the right approach is to ask broad questions first. Don't assume anything yet.
Right. Avoid jumping to conclusions. So the source material starts exactly there, looking at external factors, things outside the company's immediate control. Like, first question, did a huge new competitor just launch?
Makes sense. A new player could definitely shake things up. But in this scenario, no. No major new competitors popped up that week.
Okay, cross that off the list. So what about the existing competition? Did they suddenly roll out a massive sale, like 50% off everything? That could pull customers away.
No, another good question. You definitely have to consider competitor actions. But again, the analysis indicates no. No major sales or crazy discounts from competitors during that specific time frame.
Hmm. Okay, so it's not new competition, it's not old competition doing something splashy. What about like the whole market? Was there a big disruption? Maybe a trucker strike stopping deliveries for everyone?
That's thinking broader, which is good. A sector-wide issue, like a big supply chain problem, would absolutely impact sales. But nope, the scenario states there were no major disruptions like that. The grocery supply lines were running normally.
Okay, so external factors seem unlikely. No big competitive moves, no market-wide disasters. The next logical step is, did this drop hit everyone equally? Or was it, say, only in one city? Or only for certain types of products?
Exactly. Start slicing the data.
Yeah.
Was it geographic, demographic, specific product categories? Maybe fresh food sales fell, but pantry staples were fine. But the data showed nothing specific,
No pattern.
no clear pattern. The 25% drop seemed pretty consistent across different areas, customer groups, product types, which is itself a clue, right?
Yeah, it suggests the problem isn't isolated to one segment of the business. So if it's not external and it's hitting uniformly, the focus has to shift inward, doesn't it?
That's the logical next step. You've systematically ruled out the big external possibilities. Now you look at what's happening inside the company.
And maybe the first internal check is,
Hmm.
are we even sure the numbers are right? Could the tool measuring sales be broken?
Crucial check. You have to trust your data. What if the tool just started under-reporting? But no, they verified the data collection systems. They were working fine. The 25% drop was unfortunately real.
Okay, so real problem, likely internal. Where next? Maybe check where people are buying. Like, is it happening on the website, the mobile app, both?
Good refinement. And that's where they find something significant. The problem is isolated to the mobile app. The web app, people using browsers on computers, their sales were fine.
Ah, okay, now we're narrowing it down. So something's wrong specifically with the mobile experience.
Right. And then you can get even more specific. Mobile apps run on different operating systems. Is it iOS? Is it Android? Both.
And the focus shifts to Android. The information suggests looking there. An interesting bit is that Android app uninstallations didn't suddenly spike.
Yeah, that's a subtle but important point. If tons of people suddenly uninstall the app, it might mean a really obvious, frustrating bug or a change everyone hated.
But they weren't uninstalling in droves. Suggests maybe they still had the app, they just weren't completing purchases.
Precisely, which leads to the big reveal.
Let me guess. There was an Android app update recently.
Bingo! An Android app update was released. Guess
The
when?
past week, right when the sales started dropping.
Exactly. That correlation is obviously very strong. It feels like you found the smoking gun.
But, like you said earlier, don't jump to conclusions just yet. It's a major lead, but correlation isn't causation, right?
Precisely. It's the prime suspect, absolutely. But you still need to investigate what in that update could have caused the drop.
Okay, so drilling down into the update itself, what did it change? Did it mess with how people add things to their cart, for instance?
Well, we learned that the update did involve some changes to the user flow, the journey a user takes through the app.
And that immediately makes you think of things like, wasn't there that famous case study, the $300 million button?
Yes, exactly. That's such a classic example. It
Yeah.
perfectly shows how a seemingly tiny change in the user interface can have enormous consequences.
Could you just quickly recap that story? It's really powerful.
Sure. So this e-commerce site, they required users to register, create an account before they could actually buy anything.
Right, even first-time buyers.
Yeah, and they noticed lots of people were abandoning their carts right at that step. They talked to users and found people just wanted to buy quickly. They didn't want the hassle of registering right then.
Makes sense.
So the fix was simple. They added a button that just said, "Continue as guest. No forced registration."
And the result?
Apparently, sales went up by something like $300 million in the first year, just from adding that one button, removing that friction point.
Incredible. Just shows how vital user experience is. So thinking about that, did this grocery app maybe introduce a similar hurdle in their update, like suddenly making you register right after adding something to the cart?
Good question based on the case study, but the answer here is no. They didn't add a mandatory registration step like that.
Okay, so it's not that specific issue. What about just basic functionality?
Hmm,
Did the add to cart button itself break in the update?
that's the next check. Can people even put items in their basket? And the answer is yes, that part works. Products go into the cart.
And can they see the cart? Like, click the cart icon and view the items.
Yes, that works too. They can add items, they can view the cart with the items in it. The initial shopping steps seem fine.
Okay, so people are browsing, adding items, viewing the cart, but then stopping. That really points the finger towards the end of the process, doesn't it?
It certainly does. If they're getting that far but not finishing, the problem is almost certainly in the checkout or payment stage.
Which leads them to look at
Yeah.
bug reports.
Exactly. Are users reporting problems? And lo and behold, yes. Around the time of the update, bug reports started coming in specifically related to the payment or checkout process.
Uh-huh. Getting warmer. So what kind of payment issues? Was it affecting everything? Credit cards, debit cards, digital wallets, UPI?
That's the next level of detail needed, but the reports clarify no issues reported with those standard digital payment methods. Credit debit cards were working, wallets were fine, UPI was fine.
So too, if all the digital payment methods are okay, what's left?
Well, particularly in the Indian market, there's another very common payment method.
Cash on delivery.
Precisely. Cash on delivery, or the HUD, and that's where the problem was. The bug reports were specifically about failures when users tried to select the CUD option.
Wow. So there it is, the likely culprit.
Seems very likely. The conclusion reached is that the 25% sales drop was caused by bugs introduced in the Android app update that specifically broke the cash on delivery functionality during checkout.
It just highlights, doesn't it, how critical every single part of that chain is, especially something as vital as payments. One broken option, especially a popular one, can have a massive impact.
Absolutely, and it underlines the need for really thorough testing after any update, covering all features, all payment types, everything.
So recapping this whole journey, we started with this big, scary number,
Yeah.
25% sales drop.
Yeah, a real crisis moment.
But instead of guessing, the process was systematic. Rule out external factors, competitors, market issues.
Check.
Verify the data itself.
Check.
Narrow down the platform. It's the mobile app, specifically Android.
Getting closer.
Link it to a recent event, the Android update.
The prime suspect.
Investigate the update's impact check cart functionality, then checkout.
Following the user journey.
And finally, pinpoint the specific failure point, the cash on delivery option within the Android app's payment section.
Exactly. It's a masterclass in methodical problem solving. Don't panic. Just keep asking the right questions, keep eliminating possibilities.
And the big takeaway for you, listening to this, is really about that process. The power of asking good questions, being systematic, not jumping ahead.
And also appreciating how seemingly small things in user experience, especially around critical steps like payment, can have huge ripple effects. Data is key. Even noticing the lack of a pattern was important here.
It really was. So here's something to think about. How often do we run into those little glitches online? A
Yeah.
button that doesn't work, a page that hangs,
All the
and we just get annoyed and maybe try later. But behind the scenes, as this case shows, there's likely a team scrambling to figure out what went wrong, why it broke, and how to fix it. Makes you wonder, doesn't it? What little digital frustrations have you encountered?